Okay. Well, welcome, Donna and Diana, quantum healers that we've met on the forum. And now you write books under the name of DD Adair. And would you like to start with introducing yourselves and tell a bit about who you are and when you started writing together?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to start? Sure. So I am Donna. My last name, my married name is McMurtry. Our maiden name, because we are sisters, our maiden name is Adair, Adair. And so this is why we write under the pen name DD Adair. I'm Donna and Diana. So I'm the older sister, and we are two of four girls and one boy and two stepbrothers. So we're two of seven in our family. And we started writing together. Well, let me let you introduce yourself first.
Sure. So Diana Adair, I kept the name. And yeah, we started writing together. We started formulating our ideas and our interest in Atlantis in 2007 while we were at a hot springs. We've always been very connected to water, and this entire process of learning about Atlantis and writing our books really seems to draw us to bodies of water. So I think that's an interesting point and connection, because Atlantis is also very connected to water. So we started researching and for about 10 years. And then we started writing in about 2014. And Donna quit her job to write full time. And so that was a huge boost on the books. And we continued to research. You know how it is when you're writing a book, more information just constantly comes in. So our story and characters are set in about 10 years of research into Atlantis. And so what we've written is the most historically probable, as Donna says, Atlantis.
Wow.
So
Really
And
amazing.
it is, to be clear, it is a fiction story. So there's 3 books in the series. We published them all at once, or really about a month apart, but we wanted them all written and ready to go because it's a continuous series. But it's a fiction story, but it is set in this 10 years of research, including research we gathered from quantum healing sessions.
That's interesting.
So many of our clients, many of your clients, I'm sure, all the practitioners around the world that have regressed clients probably have run across this too, where you have at least one client or many go to a lifetime in Atlantis. Yeah. And many of them share those stories. Dolores Cannon shared many stories in her books. So all of that became part of our research, as well as our own lifetimes. Both of us had multiple lifetimes throughout the long span of Atlantis. So we drew on that for details such as world building, technologies they had, metaphysical understandings, all this sort of thing we drew on, as well as what we would call 3D research. So there is a huge body of evidence that points to Atlantis or a very, very advanced society that existed approximately 12,000 years ago that ended with this deluge event. So we drew on all the physical or 3D research that exists out there too.
And can you mention the titles of the Atlantis books?
Yes. So it's called the Golden Age series, and title of book 1 is Colors of Atlantis. There's the cover. And the title of book 2 is Shadows of Atlantis. And the title of book 3 is Atlantis Moirai. And that word Moirai means destiny.
Ah, fascinating. And now I've also been fascinated by Atlantis. I guess like many people who are into quantum healing and spiritual journeys. But I always find it difficult to get a really understanding about when did it took place? When did Atlantis existed? Can you give us some clue about what time frame did it exist?
yeah, there's a lot we could talk about there. What we learned, why there's so much confusion is because there was multiple epochs of Atlantis. So through Edgar Casey's work and who else? Diana Cooper, Shirley Andrews, a lot of them talk about either 3 different epochs or 5 different epochs, each one of them lasting for several thousands of years. So, Atlantis, the fall was about 10,000 years ago. And so, or 11,800. And so that's what we set the time frame of our books in, was the golden age, the final age of Atlantis before it sunk under the ocean completely. And, all the energetic ties were cut. But it goes back, like, what did we find at the largest? 250,000 years?
Mhm. Yeah, if you look at the longest span, I believe it's Diana Cooper reports the longest span of 5 epochs covering 250,000 years. And of course, it just all depends on, how your perspective on what was Atlantis and who were the first peoples of Atlantis and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it was difficult to write, to kind of introduce Atlantis because of that long span of time. Like you look at, say, even just the United States of America, we are 200 and some years old. And yet, if you're trying to set a story in America that tells about America to somebody who didn't understand it or doesn't know what it is, what would you draw from? Would you draw from the earliest time, the middle? Right now, it's just so vastly different. So you think about Atlantis being so much longer and having so much more information. The cultures were very different. The locations were different. The peoples were different. So it was sort of difficult to try to know what to include in our story, that would give an accurate viewing of Atlantis.
Well, and they had, what we learned is there was different focuses of learning as a species for humanity in different epochs. So for example, in one, it was more of a scientific evolution and a raising of more science and industrial technology. And in another one, they were enhancing the spiritual. And so they were, growth and evolution in that aspect of being human. And so even that, and so sometimes it was experiencing through the negative, and sometimes it was experiencing through the positive. So it was not very cut and dried. Most people think of Atlantis as like this utopia, or like everybody was evolved in every way and everything was light and love. So not true. So what do we do? How do we bring that together? And so we really kind of pulled from what we thought was the most important aspects to parallel with where we are now as a species, because that's the point. That's why Atlantis is rising, so-called. We feel is because humanity is again rising up to this apex of the next, evolving into the next thing. And so we've done a lot of things positive and negative that parallel the way Atlanteans did as well. And so that was really our focus, is telling that story and connecting it to our present times, because our teams told us the point of this ultimately is, it doesn't matter the story you write, but it's the energy that's encoded into these books that people will connect with when they read the words, and it will awaken their own memories. And it's awesome because so many times we get reports of the crazy dreams people have after they read our books, or just the really unusual experiences they have. And so we've been able to see that come to fruition of, it really is awakening all this stuff in people.
Yeah, really amazing. Huh?
And Patricia, are you aware of past lives you've had in Atlantis?
Yes.
Yeah,
I do recall. And actually, I had a past life during the time where Atlantis fall, where it all collapsed. And
Sorry, pause one moment.
Okay.
Our mom has a home phone. People still have those. Oh, Donna's turning it off right now.
Oh, it's okay.
I know she'll want to hear this too.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had a memory. It was fascinating because it came after a quantum healing session. I remember that I got home from a session, and when I lay down, another phone call.
No, it was doing a busy signal. Yeah, just keep that over here. Well, okay.
Well, we were just talking about Mercury retrograde, right? So
it's happening.
These things happen when Mercury is retrograde. So yeah, and but anyway, I got home from a session, and I think I went to lie down as I was still a bit, well, in that zone, as you could call it, still in the theta state, I guess. And then I got a spontaneous regression, and I could see so clearly a life in Atlantis passing by, and what happened there, and how I was part of some experiments, and how those experiments eventually led to the end of Atlantis. And of course, I only saw my own experience there, so I'm sure there will be a larger picture behind those experiments and the fall of Atlantis. But I don't think I've ever had an past life memory coming up that was so strong and so vivid and so significant. So yeah, and I guess after that I also got onto the path of exploring everything that's got to do with water. So, and I'm sure that you have also that strong connection with water. I can imagine, and I wonder, is there any of the abilities that the Atlanteans were supposed to have in those times that you are using right now in your present life?
That's such a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to think about that a minute.
I can answer while you're thinking.
Good.
I would say yes. So that has been one of the things that I think has unfolded for both of us through our quantum healing work, as well as the Atlantis research and the reconnection with those lifetimes. Is we also do group regressions, quantum healing regressions for people. And one of the things that we have brought in is taking people to a lifetime where they had a higher ability and bringing that forward into this time to utilize. And so for me personally, my telepathy is off the charts. And I have been, Donna and I have it all the time. Just like this morning, her computer goes black and she's thinking Diana needs to bring her computer. And I'm also thinking, yep, I'll bring my computer. And 5 minutes later, she texts me, bring your computer. I was like, I heard you. And I've been playing with it on purpose with people. So I have a friend in New York and another friend in Oregon. Well, she just moved back, but we've been consciously playing around with this to communicate in that way and then validating it for each other. And over the last year for sure, but even longer than that, I can't tell you how many times I've had a telepathic conversation with somebody. And then next time we're together, it's like they knew that we had it and I knew that we had it and we built on it then verbally from there. And often they don't even realize it. Like I do, because I'm keyed in and I'm really focused on this. Yeah. But it's fascinating putting my conscious intention on developing this, how it is literally expanding my communications with everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say your relationship with crystals too is probably rooted in true. Atlantean lifetimes. Mm-hmm. For me, I think it's more of a connection in general to higher mind, higher wisdom. I think it's less specific. I can't think of anything very specific. There just is like this, has always been this ease of connection to the spirit realms or the non-physical realms, other planets, other species. I think all of that is rooted in Atlantis because Atlanteans were very closely connected to what we call the star races, or ET or alien races that came here, have always been coming here, of course, and it was just a fact of life. Some of them lived and bred with the Atlanteans. So I think that both of us have this ease of connection with other star races and just with everything in, the quantum realms, what we call the quantum realms, right, Patricia?
Well, you know what I'm just thinking, right after we published, just when you got the hit of we should do surrogate sessions for people. And it just exploded. And I'm just now wondering, I'm having a little aha moment right now, if that didn't come out of all of that development and deeper connection with the Atlantean energies, because it was literally right after that we're like, okay, let's try it. And we put it out on the forum and in 2 hours had like 40 people sign up.
So let me explain what you're talking about a little bit for people that don't know. So we have what Patricia practices and what we practice, QHHT as well as BQH, what we call quantum healing in general. Also, past life regression is part of that, life between lives. There's several modalities that are part of this quantum healing. Well, Diana and I now offer, in addition to one-on-one sessions, we offer surrogate quantum healing sessions. And this is specifically for people who cannot connect on their own to their higher self or to their guides or to their other lives in a quantum healing session. There are lots of people out there who cannot, it would not be safe to, or they cannot go into a hypnotic trance. You know, people such as children that are too young, or the elderly, or people who are maybe deaf, or people who have certain mental conditions that it's just not a good idea for them to do this. Lots and lots of people, and we really felt a burden to serve them too. So we were told from our higher selves and teams to develop this professional surrogate session model, where one of us goes into trance and the other one acts as a practitioner. And then we do the session as if that person were in trance. We connect to all the information that they need, the healing that they need, everything like a normal session would look like, except we're doing the surrogate for them. Did I explain that well, Patricia?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And well, I also do the surrogate, so I'm familiar with it. And but I've always felt that it must be a blessing to be able to do this as sisters, because I suppose that it's so easy to tune into well, the field together.
Yes.
And
it is easy. And it's also, we've found surrogate session work to be much easier. And I'd love to hear if you found this to be true too. We found it to be much easier than working with people one-on-one a lot of times, because we get to bypass the very human blocks that all of us carry. You know, the beliefs that we have that kind of block our healing or block what we could do better in life. We get to bypass that when we do a surrogate session for somebody. So we get really high level information on their behalf, and it blows us away every time. Every single time we're just taken aback, and we learn so much from other people's higher selves and teams. And is that true for you?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the amazing things about surrogate sessions is probably that people who go into a trance state, they can have experiences, but once they come back into their normal day consciousness, many people think like, did I imagine that? Was it real? Or I just made it up. You know, that kind of doubt comes in when people are out of the theta state again. And in a surrogate session, this is the opposite, because they hear other practitioners finding information in the quantum field and finding the connection with their higher self, and they recognize things, and they know that there's no other possibility how you could have found that information. So I think it's often more a confirmation for people. And what I've experienced, and I know you probably had that too, that people can be so touched by the love, because it's such a loving energy when two people are performing this surrogate session for you. And I think this is by itself is already healing. I think when two people are really focused on your well-being, your benefit, and connecting with your higher self. And so I think it's amazing that you are able to do that together. Yeah.
We really enjoy it, and we fall in love with absolutely every single one of our clients. You know, we don't know these people. We do sessions for people around the world, and we don't know them at all. We ask for their intention for the session, their questions that they want to ask, the healing they want to ask for, and then a photo of them. And that's all we pretty much have of them. And so we get to know them from the soul perspective. That's all that really we know of them, and we just absolutely fall in love with we think every single client is just the soul most family. Amazing being that there is.
It's true.
So it's such a blessing to us to be able to do these sessions, as well as, you know, hopefully, and we do get feedback that it's a huge blessing to the clients. You know, they feel not only our love and our desire to really help and assist, but then they do feel all that incredible wisdom and encompassing love of the higher beings, like you said. Yeah.
When we get more feedback, excuse me, we get more feedback from surrogate sessions than from one-on-one. You know, so often you do a one-on-one session with someone and spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours with them, and you may never hear from them again.
Yeah.
But I would say almost every single time out of, I don't know how many sessions we've done now, a lot. There's maybe been less than 5 times that we haven't had feedback, and that's significant. So it's so profound to us. We learn so much, and it's profound that we can connect in that way and support other people. And then so it's so wonderful to hear what happens after that. You know, like I love that part of having them. And it's also informed our writing. So we've started another series of books, the New Earth healing books.
That is nonfiction.
That is nonfiction. And we were just really led to do this because we and our clients have learned and benefited and healed so much from these sessions that we just felt really led to put some of the sessions and the learning together in a book and offer that out for the benefit of people. So we don't charge for this other than it's a free download, or if you buy it through Amazon, I think it's $5 or something like that.
7, but it's printing costs.
Yeah.
So our first one is New Earth Healing, also by DD Adair. And it's all about self-healing. That, you know, we've come to believe that all healing is really self-healing. And these are just, like Diana said, session stories from some of the surrogate sessions around the topic of healing. And yes, this will remain free. The ebook will always remain free, as well as as far as we know right now, the rest of the series. We're working on a New Earth book about death, and we're working on a New Earth book about sexuality and spirituality.
Oh, that's interesting.
And those will also all be surrogate session stories that we share. And those also will be free for the ebook download. And then the actual book will sell for print costs. Because this is not, you know, it doesn't belong to us. This information does not belong to us. We are supposed to be sharing it with the rest of humanity. And so we're trying to honor that.
Well, and we do weave in some of our own personal experience and learning. Like this first book, there's a chapter on trauma, the trauma mechanism, and also the Doorway to Death book, which will be out soon, and the sexuality book. You know, so we do share some of that as well, or whatever we think might help.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, and so you work a lot with people who had traumas. Is that what you mean?
Doesn't everybody have trauma? Patricia, have you met somebody who doesn't have trauma? I don't know. Maybe they exist.
I mean, really how we define trauma is just excess energy that was not able to be processed at the time, that gets stuck in our body, our field, our mind, our belief system, all of that. And so really, you know, to us, that's the whole point of these sessions, is not only to get information to grow and learn from, but to clear that energy out and free up our field and our body so it can heal itself. Like, to me, that is what self-healing and coming back into wholeness is. And so it's, you know, trauma, it could be anything. It could be my mom yelling at me and I took that in. You know, we tend to think of it as like a big thing, but it's really any experience that we don't fully process that then gets caught in here. So
I once heard a definition of abuse that shocked me, because it said anything that is not nurturing, anything that is outside of loving and nurturing could be considered abuse. And that's such a broad definition, but depending on how sensitive of a person you are, absolutely. A lot of things can be traumatic or abusive, you know, to our psyches, as well as the really horrific and terrible things that people undergo, that humans undergo, that, you know, why do humans do these things to each other? I don't know, but there is healing for it. That's the important part. Healing and learning.
And well, I've read the New Earth book, and there was a session about a mermaid life. Could you share a little bit about it? Would you like to do that, or?
Yes, let me pull that up from the old memory.
Well, it was someone who got healed from, not sure if I'm going to pronounce this right in English, psoriasis. that the right?
Psoriasis.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is a skin disease.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you wrote about that from the person who had that mermaid life. And now the first thing that came up with me is like a mermaid. I imagine to have like this, how do you call it in English? This sort of fish-like skin and
Scales.
Oh, yeah.
scale. And
Scales.
sometimes people with how do you call it? Sorry, what a word!
Psoriasis. It's such a weird
Psoriasis.
word. Yeah. We might not be saying it right either. I don't know.
Yeah, but somehow I could feel that there's this link between those two skins, and I don't know why, but do you remember that session? Do you remember how it got healed?
I do. And if I remember right, this client had several, I think she had fungus. She was suffering from some sort of fungus on the fingers and the toes, as well as some psoriasis on the back of her head, maybe something like that. And the lifetime that they showed us was when she was this mermaid. And it was not a happy Disney mermaid lifetime at all. It was frightening and cold and in the dark depths, surrounded by creatures that wanted to eat her. And she had been abandoned by her mermaid family or parents or whatever. She was kind of alone. Her only friend was a whale. And she was terrified. She, at the soul level, was told that she had not done enough research before coming into that lifetime to really understand what it was going to be like. And so she came into that lifetime, and it ended up just being sort of a disaster. And so there was several carryovers. There was unhealed trauma from that lifetime that was resurfacing in this life to be healed, to be addressed. And so it was related to just all that she had experienced. Her skin issues were very much related to a lot of the fear and the trauma that needed to be let go of,
Yeah.
for good.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So it was fascinating lifetime. She actually ended up at the end of that life, she was already dying, but she came to the surface on this little island and was found by some men. And I can't remember what we thought the time period. It was somewhere really far north. I know that because it was like a cold climate. And the men were dressed, it made us think it was not terribly long ago, like maybe a couple centuries ago, if that.
Yeah.
And but they knew what she was. The men were not that surprised or shocked by her. And they went ahead and actually killed her to put her out of her misery, because she was already, mostly dead. She was already very far in the dying process.
Yeah.
So there's many things about that session that were surprising, that humans were not really that shocked to find a creature like this, and that it wasn't that long ago, all that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you, Patricia, being so connected to water, have you experienced mermaid lifetimes?
Well, I think one of the first sessions that I facilitated was with someone who went to a life as a mermaid. And I don't know if you have this, but I always notice that when I do sessions that a certain theme comes up, like you would have like 5 sessions in a row where people all see themselves as a mermaid, and without me talking about it. I mean, those people don't know each other.
Yeah.
And so there's always like these themes when sessions come up. And so, yeah, when I first started, there were all mermaids' lives.
Huh.
It makes you
Wow.
wonder why why those people. Well, I believe there's always a connection between client and practitioner, and there's no coincidence why these two find each other. So it makes you wonder why these mermaids' life were so significant in the beginning. And
Have you ever gone to one yourself? Like, do you feel that direct connection personally?
Well, I do feel it, but I didn't see any past lives as a mermaid. But I remember that as a child, and I lived near the sea, and I would always feel like as if my fingers would get like, how do you call that? Well,
Like webbed or
yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And as if you would, yeah, feel as if you were a mermaid. Maybe
Huh.
all little
Wow.
girls have that. I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't. I was going to say, but I can resonate with what you're saying because I have experienced being a dragon before. I have a lot of dragon energy, and
Ah,
I've had a lot of clients go to dragon lifetimes.
yeah.
hmm
So
So
there
I think that would
probably
be the same thing.
exactly. So there
Mhm.
probably is this connection there. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And well, it's obvious for me that mermaids are related to Atlantis, and but I'm also an astrologer, and as an astrologer, I also look into other planets, and so lately I come across lives on Andromeda where mermaids are also very present. So I'm curious if you have seen a connection between mermaids, Atlantis, Andromeda. Did you come across that connection in your sessions?
I don't know that I've noticed a connection. We actually have had quite a lot of clients that have had Andromeda lifetimes
hmm
or connections,
Which we didn't know what it was at first.
yeah,
Andromeda.
yeah. So that's an interesting, I don't know that I've connected Atlantis and mermaids and Andromeda.
No, but we have had one of those lifetimes they went to was a water planet, and it was in the Andromeda galaxy. So I
Mm,
would say that's the closest connection we've had. There's definitely been water connections,
mhm.
but I don't think specific mermaid Andromeda. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And what have you drawn from that? Like from as an astrologer, how does Andromeda and all of the information coming through the sessions connect with our galaxy and us right now as a planet?
Well, of course, there is this connection with water and mermaids and Poseidon. Um, uh, but for me, what is relevant about Andromeda right now is this: if I look at it from an astrological perspective, the theme of Andromeda is to end slavery. And people who have Andromeda in a significant place in their birth charts, they often have this theme in their life where they play a role in ending slavery in what kind? Like some would play a role in liberating women from abused men, or some would have an active role in, well, liberation of slavery in the biggest sense of the word. I know someone, a friend of mine, he is uh, making a museum for the slaves who got liberated, the Afro-American slaves, and well, not only the Afro-American, but also the African slaves who went to Europe and to Holland. And so he's creating a museum um, as a celebration for the end of slavery, but also to remind people what happened. He's got a significant Andromeda position in his chart. And so everyone with this Andromeda connection has this theme with liberating people. And I do see that Andromeda comes up in sessions quite a lot. So probably because this is a theme that is very present right now in the world, and liberation is happening on many, many levels. So
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Well, and where was it that we read? Somebody had, I read it somewhere that the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way galaxy are slowly merging.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was fascinating to me, and I definitely want to learn more about that. But I'm wondering if there's a connection between that and Atlantis and the overlay of
Oh,
humanity right now. Like, do you see any
well, now that you mentioned it,
connection there?
I can see a connection maybe because some astronomers, they believe that the Earth was birthed, is that the English word, out
Mhm.
of Andromeda, out of the Andromeda galaxy. So we were
Mhm.
born out of Andromeda. And they say that I think it will be a few million years, or where Andromeda and the Earth will be joined together, and a new planet will rise from that. And that's what astronomers say. Now, if I interpret that as a quantum healer or as an astrologer, I think this is so symbolic to the creation of a new Earth, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yes.
And the theme that Andromeda brings, you know, when you talk about that theme of freedom, of liberty, and then the lifelong theme of humanity on Earth, not lifelong, you know, eons long theme of humans being in slavery or not free so much of the time. You know, it's kind of an interesting thing to bring that all together, right? What Andromeda would be bringing to the Earth.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Woo, that makes me excited. I mean, I feel like we're already kind of begun that process. We're doing it.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
From within, you know, it's such a beautiful thing to watch this wave of freedom begin to go across the planet from within each one of us. I will be free. I claim my freedom, you know,
Exactly.
and I'm so excited to watch that continue to play out at the level of countries, you know, around the world. But it's starting right now individually, I think, and it's been going on individually for quite some time, I think.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. I guess that everything that we heal in ourselves will heal, well, our surroundings, our families, and it will have a ripple effect. So, yeah.
And
Yes.
I really see that playing out too, not only in our own families, but in the people around me that I know. I mean, we've had a profound shift in our own family over the last year and a half, and well, really year, where all 7 of us kids have come together in a whole new way. And, you know, we had some big rifts throughout our history together. And you know, Donna and I have both been really focusing heavily on our own inner work and healing and clearing and coming back into our wholeness. And so have everybody else. And in that way, once we all kind of was like, okay, I'm just going to work on myself, and we're doing our own process, you know, we've really seen that shift in a major way, where we look forward to spending time together and talk about things we've never been able to in our entire lives. And we just stopped focusing on anything but our own inner well-being. And to see that ripple out it's still blowing me away.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that subject, Patricia, because, you know, I think sometimes it's such hard work to do our own self-healing, right? Like, it can be so difficult, and it's easy to lose motivation. Like, well, why should I continue to work so hard to wade through all of this junk and to, you know, heal our bodies, heal our emotions, heal our minds, everything that there is to heal. And that is the answer. That's the why for me when I lose motivation, is understanding that it is such a profound and huge, expansive service to the entire world just when I heal myself. And it's true for every single individual. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that often gets overlooked when we talk about self-healing and about doing our work. You know, is what a service that is to all of humanity when we do that, when we're willing to step into the muck for however long it takes and work however hard it needs to be to do that for us and for everybody else. Thank you for mentioning that.
And it's such a different focus, you know, being a therapist for a long time and doing a lot of different types of therapy over the years. And, you know, the model is, or the program is, that we have to help other people heal, or we have to heal other people. And so helping can look a lot of ways. And I think there's been a lot of distortion and misinterpretation around that. And once I made that mental shift inside myself, I've really witnessed that shift too. And just doing my own thing, focusing on me, and really helping myself come into wholeness I get feedback all the time. Like just yesterday, I spent some time with 2 women that used to be clients, and they texted me last night and were like, thank you so much for the work you're doing on yourself. Like, it's so inspiring to me. And now I'm making this change in my life.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, because it was always
Beautiful.
before, like I could never do enough. I could never help enough people. And I ran myself ragged trying to get in as many people as I could and depleted myself and all this other stuff. And now I don't do that hardly at all. And
Yeah.
it's profound to me. So yeah, it's so important to talk about.
Being the example, being
Yeah.
the change
Yeah.
really does work.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a quote that I saw a week ago. It was something like, being a lighthouse doesn't mean that you go looking for people who need to be saved, but being a lighthouse means that you stand there and you just shine and be who you are. I thought it was such a beautiful picture that they painted with those words. It was really, I think, yeah, that's it. Just work on yourself and be your true self. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that image, and that in a way was given to me a few years ago of all I need to do is just be a pillar of light and get it as strong and as clear and as possible, because as it spreads out and gains and amplifies, it helps other people connect with their own light, because everybody has their own light. We're each our own lighthouse.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a beautiful image. So
Yeah.
thanks for saying that.
Oh, it's so important that you mentioned that, because I believe that it is so true that we are our own lighthouse and we don't need anybody else to be empowered. Or and I guess that's one of the beautiful things about quantum healing, I think, is that you connect people with their own higher self and their own inner wisdom. And I see that as one of the most important reasons to do quantum healing. To show people how they can do it and how they are connected and how they are much more than this personality. Yeah.
Yes. I like to tell my clients it's all a training for them to do it themselves. You know, it's not a therapeutic relationship. In a way it is, but it's really a training for them to do it on their own, connect on their own.
Yeah.
And there's another point I'd love to talk about right now with that is I've been playing with this concept of life without condition, not putting conditions on my happiness, on my well-being, like, you know, this thing we do of like, when this happens, then I'll feel good or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was listening to an Abraham Hicks podcast, and he was telling someone about this. He said, you know, life without condition means not only not putting conditions on your own happiness and well-being, but not being that condition for somebody else. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
And as a therapist, that really got me and sunk in, is how often have I made myself the condition for somebody else's well-being or healing or happiness? And there's a real freedom from unhooking from that too. And to me, it's like giving them back their sovereignty, their power, their creatorhood, because we each have it and we each do it for ourselves. So.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New thought.
Yeah. So how do you envision a new Earth? What does it look like for you?
Good question.
Yes, because we've seen it in different time periods in our so-called future. You know, some of our clients that have surrogate sessions will actually go to future lifetimes. And so we get to see, and it looks different depending on where you are on the earth, depending on what time period, you know, that we're in. But in general, the new earth, the earth that I would like to see, that I think is possible in our lifetimes, in this lifetime, is one of inclusiveness, is one of, you know, where we begin to really truly value the differences that we all have, the diversity that's present in humanity, and then support that, even go one step beyond just accepting everybody as they are, as who they want to be, what they want to create, how they want to live, not only just accepting this beautiful array of diversity that's present, but then supporting each individual in their diverseness. That's a really broad, I realize, a really broad and general view, but of course I want to see a beautiful earth. I want to see the earth itself be totally regenerated. You know, I want to see us be able to live in complete harmony with nature. And I think that's very possible. I think it's very, very possible for us to do in this lifetime. I think we're headed in that direction. I think we are rapidly gaining ground in that direction. I think that COVID helped this period of all of us being in our houses or at home, you know, really showed us how quickly the earth regenerates herself. So I think it's a blend for me, a blend of those two things, of just this unconditional acceptance and love for each other and support of each other, as well as of earth, living in harmony and really being the gardeners, you know, tending this beautiful planet. You know, what that means. What does it mean to take care of her, to help her flourish, you know, to help animals flourish, to help nature flourish, as well as going beyond that, coming back into brotherhood and sisterhood with the star races, you know, not only it being disclosed or known, but where we come back into relationship with them. Because they have so much to teach us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Beautiful.
I would just add to that. I mean, you said everything that I also believe in. One, the only thing I would add is that this concept of unity and oneness that, you know, so many of us want and are creating is really about the diversity and the individuality, and recognizing that that's what creates the massive morphic field of consciousness that we're all part of, is that we're uniquely different and yet the same. And that also includes that connection with nature, like realizing we are one with nature. We're no different. We're not apart from, we are a part of. And again, you know, and I'm in nature all the time. I love to trail run and I love to hug trees and kiss them. And, you know, I just have a really deep relationship with nature, with plants and rocks. I love rocks. My house is filled with rocks. And it's about connecting my energy with theirs, my consciousness with theirs. And it's emerging in the unity, but it's possible because we're two different, very different things. And yet we're both consciousness merging and then coming apart and in multiplying every time that we do that. And so for me, this concept of, you know, the indigenous tribes talk about, we're moving into out of the fourth world of separation into the fifth world of unity. And so that's what it means for me, is really joining back in with that while still honoring, like Donna said, our diversity, our individuality. That's what expands all that is. That's what, you know, adds to source and makes it infinitely expand. And so that's the world I want to see. And so that's what I'm focusing on, because I believe what I focus on and I'm creating is what I'm putting into it. And in that way we co-create. So
beautiful. Beautiful.
How about you? Is it appropriate if I ask you the same question, Patricia? Because I'd love to hear your vision.
Well, I think you've mentioned most of how I would see it. I think what I could add is that I guess it would also have this openness, like transparency, a world where we are in this unity field where we can know each other's thoughts. And so there would not be any secrets anymore. Like we can see exactly the energy of the other person. And I remember that years ago I had what I would call my Kundalini awakening. And for, I think about a year, I could see the energies of people and plants and, well, everything. I could see as if it were all molecules that were in all beautiful colors, and like as if you could see the life force energy. And so I guess when I think of a new earth, it's kind of like that, like seeing the life force and the vitality in everything, in every living being. And that makes everything transparent and clear. And for me, that has some, that has beauty. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we are moving into that too. You know, as you're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I've had thoughts of that same thing and experiences of that, and conversations around that. with other people.
Yeah.
We have.
Being able to really truly see each other,
Yeah.
who we all really
Exactly.
are
Yeah.
as soul essence.
Yeah.
Exactly. Seeing the
Yeah.
essence and like no masks, literally no
I
masks.
know, right? Symbolically, take them off.
Yeah, I've often thought about the whole situation that the world is going through, and I always feel like I like to turn things around. So that's what I do when I have someone coming, and we are talking about what is the core of their questions, and I ask them to describe their fears and then turn it around. So that's what I've been doing the last 2 years with everything that's going on, and the word lockdown, which has been mentioned so many times. And every time I hear it, I think to myself, the opposite of lockdown, open up. So
Open up.
what can I do to open up?
Well, and it's so true, because more and more people are opening up inside. You know, they're opening up to who they are within. And so you're absolutely right. During this outer lockdown, we have this huge heart opening and
Exactly.
expansive thing happening within each
Yeah.
person's consciousness and heart filled.
Yeah,
And we were just
exactly.
recently an example of that. We were just recently in New York City and Long Island and Cape Cod, and we had the most incredible experience with people. Like, people are so hungry for connection,
Yeah.
and you know, we're just free and open all the time.
Yeah.
And the way people responded to that, you know, which here in America is kind of, you know, supposed to be the epicenter of whatever.
Well, New York has a reputation here for being rude. New Yorkers, a lot of Americans think of New Yorkers as being kind of rude. And we did not experience that at all. We experienced them as kind and open and, you know, willing to help us in any way that we needed. And they just responded with such grace and hunger
Wow.
for human connection.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And wonderful, because I have a really hard time being in cities or around lots and lots of people. So I was a little bit dreading going there and being there because of that, because it's hard enough in a small city,
Yeah.
much less going to New York. So it really made all the difference to have such a wonderful response from the beautiful humans that live in New York City.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah. But we went in with that intention of being open. That's what made me think of that as, how do I turn this around? Oh, I just open myself as much as possible and intentionally radiate my heart field as big as I can make it.
Yeah.
I'm going to love you.
Wow. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was so wonderful talking with you. And I mean, it's already been an hour that we've been talking, and I feel like we've
Oh my
just
God.
started.
I know. Part one.
Yeah. So is there anything that you would like to share before we are going to close this conversation?
Well, I'll share, we have a website, ddadair.com. And of course, there's links to everything. There's links to our books. There's the free download link to the New Earth Healing book, as well as our books are all on Amazon.
Yeah.
Our Atlantis series is on all of the online bookstores. So whether it's Apple or Barnes and Noble or in America, let me say it's on all of the online bookstores in America, only Amazon, I believe, in other countries.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Well, and I
books.
just want to mention, we're working on our next series. And so we're posting pictures and little stories of our research. It's on the ancestors. And for this one, we're focusing on the ancestors here in North America of the indigenous tribes and the giants and the terrabines and everyone that was here 10,000 years ago. So the timeline will start paralleling our books from Atlantis. And so we have a YouTube channel also that's The Spiral Path, and then a Facebook page of the same, The Spiral Path, where we're posting pictures of our research, because we're going across North America and visiting these sites that have mounds and pyramids and a lot of ancient history that is still here. And so we're trying to share little bits along the way as we're gathering research for this next book series. But again, we're just really trying to cover these lost periods of humanity's history and how it connects to our star family, because that's relevant. Those connections are happening and being reconnected right now. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. Yeah. So ddadair.com.
Yes.
And the Spiral Path.
Yes.
That's your
The Spiral
YouTube channel.
Path.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. And well, I hope that many people will find your books, and I think they are liberating. So if we would talk about the Andromedan theme of liberating people, I think that's exactly what you both do with your sessions and your books. So so thank you for being my guest today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah,
It was
thank you so
wonderful to
much.
talk to you. We very much appreciate you taking the time to interview us.
Oh, I
Yes.
loved it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure to connect with you.
Yeah, and we finally see each other.
Yay!
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome.
Okay, then goodbye for now.
Yes.